segment to 15 to 25 minutes. So
okay,
you don't have to worry about that, but just like we'll be keeping the mental clock. So just so you're aware.
Okay.
So good.
Right,
all right,
we're
we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. How you doing today, John?
Doing good. Glad to be here with our guest, Care Bear. How you doing, Carrie?
I'm doing good. It's almost the weekend. Can't complain.
It can't come soon enough. Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yep. I forgot. No, I forgot about that. Yeah. It's Thursday. Years ago, I heard someone refer to Thursday as Friday Junior, and I've loved it ever since then. I was like, oh, that's good. I like that. So I put the little positive spin on it. So we got a few segments to cover today. John, which one you thinking of first? Which one you want to tackle?
Let's see. So we got I feel like Vivek is a good one to just start off with because it's just a little more fun and a little more nebulous. We can go a lot of directions with it, and then the other ones are a little more real. So I said we start off with that fun one. We can then move to Alito and or Trump, and then finish up with the really fun one in Israel.
All right, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, barrel of laughs. That topic. But Carrie and people listening, this is just kind of like an inside thing with our show that for some inexplicable reason, our Vivek Ramaswamy videos always do well. In fact, John, this afternoon I checked, out of our top 10 videos, like 4 are Vivek Ramaswamy. I shit you not. It's so weird. It's weird.
People love Vivek. I can't even argue with it. I kind of like him too. I hate his policy, but I like him. Let's
talk about him, man.
I would get a beer with Vivek Ramaswamy easily.
All right, you want to launch us into this one, John?
Yeah. All right. So, guys, our favorite Indian conservative token is in the news. Or I shouldn't say that. There are actually there's a strong conservative movement among Indians, but the most famous one, Vivek Ramaswamy. He's in the news again, not for necessarily. I mean, it's political, but it's not on the campaign trail political like he used to be. He is going to be buying what they call an activist stake in Buzzfeed. So Buzzfeed, I'm sure everyone is aware of it, is we'll call it a digital news light platform. It's been a lot of things over the years. At one point, it was just that place you went to get the listicle articles about tells you what Harry Potter house you were going to be in. At one point, it became a Pulitzer Prize winning news organization, which has since been folded. And now it's kind of just spiraling, not really sure where to go. And Vivek Ramaswamy thinks he knows where to take it. Now, this is an interesting story because, I mean, he's spending his personal money on this. Like, this is a business move. This isn't a political one. But clearly, when a billionaire conservative political entity buys a media outlet, it's cause for concern in a lot of circles. However, the one thing he is right about is that this is a flailing organization in need of a captain. And 7% stake isn't going to make him captain, but I am interested to know what you guys think of this. Is this are we worried about Vivek Ramaswamy, the media mogul? Because again, as TJ mentioned in our preamble here, we always do good views when Vivek is involved, and I imagine he might actually be good at this. So is this a much ado about nothing? Are we just putting Vivek in a thumbnail to get views, or is this something worth talking about? TJ, what do you think?
So Vivek jumping in to media I'm surprised none of us called it, honestly. Like, I'm surprised we didn't call him like putting a bunch of money into some sort of media outlet. We knew he wasn't going to be president. Like, that was obvious wasn't going to happen. And when Vivek is honestly, in reality, he is actually a pretty captivating person to us. Like, I refer to him often as like a D-tier Batman villain. That's what he reminds me of. He just reminds me of someone who is like, it's kind of like the Star Wars prequels that, they're not good movies, but one great aspect of them is the Emperor, because the actor, like McDermott, he's evil and loves every second of it. He's just enjoying being an asshole. And Vivek kind of copies that the best from Trump, is that he does the whole Trump impression better than anybody else, any other Republican. He just has that one weird hang up, you know, with his skin color and everything. The Republicans can't seem to get over. They're not going to be big fans of that. So we knew he wasn't going to be Trump's vice president, not only for that reason, but also because Trump would never pick a vice president who had the potential of upstaging him. So that wasn't going to happen. So we kind of figured he'd just kind of hang out in the conservative circles, you know. And like John mentioned, he's either a billionaire or a near billionaire. Is he actually? He's up there. Like,
confident he's a billionaire.
Yeah. So he's close enough. If he's not, like he's super rich, and he got rich by like some pharmaceutical thing, right? Like a pump and dump thing for a pharmaceutical company. If I remember, it was just taking in a bunch of say what?
It was a scam.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he took in a bunch of investor money and then just shed all which proves he is a true American, despite what Ann Coulter has to say. But I'm just looking forward to a Vivek Ramaswamy ran Buzzfeed, because I was trying to think of, you know how, John, you mentioned Buzzfeed did a bunch of articles and quizzes and stuff. Like with Vivek Ramaswamy being an owner, what kind of quizzes Buzzfeed would come up with? And I thought of a couple, which is like one of them is, obviously, take this quiz. Are you white enough to be president? That's obvious. The first one he would come with. And the second is, are you, which Confederate general would you be? I think that'd be a pretty funny one that they would do. Are you white enough to date my daughter? That's another one that those would come with. And isn't it unfair I can't date my own daughter? Like, this is something I think that conservatives on Buzzfeed would be saying. It'd be pretty fun stuff. But I just thought that it's going to be one of these things where, like, it's going to be fun, but in a tragic way, which is basically life in the United States at this moment. What do you think, Carrie?
Wow, you guys do love Vivek Ramaswamy. I had no idea. I don't even know this much about him. I am in awe of you guys giving him endearing qualities, to be totally honest with you. Actually, I will say that my most favorite quality about Vivek is his Freudian slips are priceless. Like the one where he said politician, about it being clearly corrupt. I don't know. I think he's trying to emulate Elon Musk. I think that there is a dangerous factor there that, you know, remains to be seen. Like, are foreign entities going to use Buzzfeed to, you know, spew disinformation into, America's social media scene? Or is it really a good idea for another right-wing nut billionaire to have more access to news and media, particularly social media? Probably not. Or could it just be a good old-fashioned money laundering thing like we see True Social over there? So it's hard to know. Hard to know.
It is. And I want to clarify my love for Vivek, because Vivek's policies, like his policy is batshit insane. Like his, what do you want to do? He wanted to just like cut half of the federal government by like odd number social security number. Like one of the, like,
insane
honestly,
shit.
One of the dumbest policies I've ever heard. But there's two things I like about Vivek. One, I genuinely believe he doesn't drink the Kool-Aid. Like, I think Vivek, he knows he's playing a bit, and I don't think he has become the bit at all. As opposed to Donald Trump, I think he was playing a bit and was kind of racist, and then he got consumed by the role. I think Vivek knows he's playing a role, and you can kind of see that, like in the Ann Coulter interview. Did you see that, Care Bear?
I did.
We covered it last week.
That was wild shit, right?
when she says, "I didn't vote for you. I wouldn't vote for you because you were Indian," you see the 1,000-yard stare at him, where he's just like, "Yep, I can't say anything, but I really hate this." And if he was drinking Candace Owens would not have that reaction. She drinks the Kool-Aid. He doesn't. The other thing I love about Vivek is that if you grew up in Pennsylvania, specifically the Philadelphia and suburban area, that's something that people don't know. The number one immigrant population in Pennsylvania is from India. It's the only state in the country and we have a large Indian population. And when you grow up in nerdy, academically proficient circles in Pennsylvania, you have a lot of Indian friends. And everyone knows the Indian kid who was really smart, but also was weirdly into rap. And for every bio project did a rap video. Vivek is a dude that I feel I grew up with.
Yeah, because doesn't he have the big chain? Doesn't he have the Trump chain that he's running around with the Trump rappers now?
And genuinely, those people, while they tend to say some of the wildest shit ever, tend to be good. I tend to like those people, and so that's I just get good vibes because I know people like him. But yeah, his policy is batshit insane. He's a billionaire, so he should become dinner food at some point. But yeah, of the conservative presidential candidates, I personally like the guy more than anyone else on that stage. That's for sure.
I would never say I liked Vivek. I find Vivek is interesting to me in a lot of ways because Vivek is just a pure, honest to God sociopath. Right there, the guy is American Psycho level sociopathy, but he does enjoy it. He does enjoy playing this bit, and the only thing I would say I respect of Vivek Ramaswamy, because I think that I agree with John a lot that he knows that this is professional wrestling, and he does the ridiculous fucking hair he has and everything, and the stupid shit that he repeats, and scamming people is just part of the Republican way. But there is one spot of integrity that I actually found. It has to be integrity because it doesn't help him. Is that he didn't convert to Christianity? He's still a Hindu, which, for the life of me, I can't understand why. For the life of me, I can't. And he's on stage, and I don't know if you guys remember this. He would always end his campaign speeches with this 10 Commandments type thing, where he would say, there are 10 or 11 things that you can't deny. They're absolutely true. America's the greatest force for good in the world. There are two genders. And he's God is real. And he would always say, and sometimes someone's finally hey, which God, Vivek? Which God is real? And he's oh, well, I'm a Hindu and you guys are Christian. I understand. It was so we stuck with that. That's the only thing that I actually respect about Vivek, that he actually stuck with the religion, because he didn't have to. But God is just the amount of how can we even bring this up with making fun of him, with him talking about how racism doesn't exist, how he gave a speech saying that, I'm sure that there's some sort of boogeyman white supremacists out there. I've never met any. And then the whole Ann Coulter thing happened. I didn't know if you guys saw him on Patrick Bet-David's show. I don't recommend anybody watching Patrick Bet-David, but he was asking Vivek about this interview. And he asked Vivek, and he's so, do you think she represents a sizable percentage of the Republican population or voting population? And Vivek said, well, before I started this, I would have said no. But after going through that primary, the number is higher than you would think. It's no, it's not. The number is pretty much exactly what I would think. So, watching him go through that has been pretty fun. But I don't know. I don't want you to take it the wrong way that we like Vivek Ramaswamy. It's just that he always provides great. Say what?
I was just being sarcastic, you guys. I know. He is very entertaining. I mean, he is entertaining in a likable way, but is it because the field around him is so unlikable that you're just kind of drawn to anyone that has any remote personality or any sort of charisma? I think that might have something to do with it, because look at who's around him. They're just the most unlikable group of people that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, we're talking about the worst people. If Bernie Sanders did any other job, I would hate him. But by comparison, he's fantastic. I love him. But if Bernie Sanders was a news anchor, I'd be what is this guy doing on air? He's so unlikable. But he just bleeds likableness on on a debate stage, because you're comparing him to Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. You're at least this guy seems like he's genuinely trying to help people. But yeah, no, I definitely feel that way. From the other side of this, from the non-Vivek side of this, more on the Buzzfeed side of this, are you guys or have you ever been heavy Buzzfeed? You guys?
Oh man, when Buzzfeed was in its heyday, though, those quizzes were just,
couldn't get enough of them.
The BuzzFeed quizzes? Are you kidding me? That was a really fun time in pop culture. Really. And then it's interesting how they did morph into like Pulitzer Prize winning journalism. And I think they really, was it the 2016 election that they kind of came to the forefront and started putting out all these pieces?
It was definitely during the Trump era that they won. I think they won it in 2019, the Pulitzer Prize. I'm not a like BuzzFeed historian here. This is more from the research I did on this for this episode. But yeah, it was during that time, and then they spun it off. I think like 2 years ago, something like that.
And I believe they did their writers and their employees really dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was part of the downfall.
Of course.
Yep. Yeah, it would be interesting. I don't know. I see it as a, billionaire that really likes to be in the thick of things, like politically. And honestly, if he has a way to, kind of be like a mini Elon Musk type with his own social media site, and model it after what Elon is doing, that's the way I see it going. I don't know if I necessarily see it being like a successful resurgence of BuzzFeed, though. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know if he'll go. Like, I genuinely don't think he'll necessarily go like the Truth Social route. Like, I don't think he's going to be like, we need a conservative bent to BuzzFeed. I think he has a certain vision, and I think he wants to utilize BuzzFeed for political purposes. But I think it's more of a CNN acquisition, where like they're just going to subtly shift right, but not like try and court the far right base. And I think it could, it's better than what they're currently doing, because what they're currently doing doesn't work. So anything's got to be better.
Well, when you said that, you guys said how BuzzFeed, or Carrie, you said how BuzzFeed had screwed over their workers. I'm like, man, Vivek's going to love this place. Like, it's already pretty much set up for him. And so that's going to be pretty interesting. But you've mentioned how he's going to try to copy the Elon Musk route. Elon Musk is another person who I love making fun of. I cannot get enough of making fun of Elon Musk. And one of the things that I say all the time is that the biggest mistake Elon Musk ever made was making himself a public figure, because, 10 years ago, everyone was like, he's this mysterious, brilliant, rich guy. He's like Tony fucking. Yeah, he's Tony Stark. He's in the lab every day cranking out these great inventions. And then he opens his fucking mouth. You're like, oh, okay, this guy.
Oh, yeah. Let me just give these keys to the Tesla right back. Like,
God. Listen, I wish we could do the segment on Tesla, because I cannot stop watching reviews of people shitting on Cybertrucks. But I didn't know it was just the Cybertruck, because Tesla hasn't made a new model of their vehicles in years. Like years. They've been putting all their money into time wasters like Cybertruck. And it's been pretty fun to watch. But anyway, the one thing Carrie mentions that you both mentioned actually is that he could be like Elon Musk, except he'll have the main thing Elon Musk doesn't have, which is a personality, which will actually carry you pretty far. Because if you want to be a public face of something, or even just, it's amazing Elon has convinced people to like buy into his shit, because you listen to him for 5 minutes, like, I don't know about that, man, but it keeps working. There's other stuff I want to add during the break, but yeah, we'll go.
The one thing I wanted to say before we cut out the end of this episode is that I looked it up. Vivek may or may not be a billionaire. Forbes listed, like the last article I saw said Forbes listed him at $950 million as of August 2023. So depending on how well his stock portfolio did, he could be a billionaire. He could not. Or not. I'm going to guess he is. I'm going to guess his net worth has significantly increased since August 23. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
All
right.
That's a shame. It's a shame.
No one who's a billionaire deserves the view. No one who's deserving of all that money.
Have you ever seen Silicon Valley?
No.
It's a satire of Silicon Valley. It's an HBO show. It's a pretty good show. But there's a character in it who's a billionaire, and he always goes on about 3 commas. Like he has like 3 golden comma keys because it's like the 3 commas in a billion, right? And like one episode he shows up and he's like crying. And he's like, I only have 2 commas now.
Yeah. everyone else out there working on that first comm, I really feel sorry for him. It's, so one thing I wanted to whatever. Oh, John, you mentioned in the segment there about how Vivek has more personality than other politicians, and how even someone who's considered fairly charismatic for a politician like Bernie Sanders would not be the coolest guy at your job. He just happens to be a senator, and so he's not and obviously this is a great Trump parallel. This is one of the primary reasons Trump won. It is like Trump is an entertainer. He has he can read a room. He comes up with quick insults, and and he's funny, and he just gets people off guard, and when he was tearing down 16 Republicans on stage, some of the best entertainment I ever watched. Like some of the best entertainment I ever watching him go after Republicans like that. But Bernie Sanders, I saw this video. I don't know if you guys ever saw this. This was back in 2019 or something. And the New York Times interviewed all the major candidates, and they got to Bernie Sanders, and he was just pissed off the entire interview. He was just like his face was just all scrunched up. And they asked him, so what don't you like? What do you like the least about, being in Congress? He goes, I tell you what, when you're in the Senate, he's like, it's all a bunch of bullshit. Everyone's he literally said, he's like, I don't deal well with bullshit. People call you up. It's like, hey, happy birthday. When they don't care it's your birthday or not. He's like, I'm not a backslapper. It's not what I do. I was like, yeah, Bernie would not be a fun guy at work. He would not be a fun guy at work at all. That's pretty good.
No, he'd be the one complaining, why are we breaking for work? Why are y'all in the break room? Come on, let's go. No, yeah. Would not be a fun coworker.
But then there would be that one after work happy hour where he actually let loose and you just had the best time in the world with him.
Yeah.
All right. What comments we got here, TJ? I see,
all right. So
Ben is in the chat here.
Ben commented a couple of times here. He's like, what do you say? It's the weekend. All week for me because it's Ben is 17. Yeah. We found out, which still younger than I would have guessed because he comments on my page a lot, and I would have guessed he was older. Vivek just wants to turn BuzzFeed into Boomer Conservative website. I wish YouTube had a speaker thing. I don't know what that means. And the left needs videos and Trump's person. Yeah, listen, we say this all the time that one thing that inhibits politicians is the personality thing. That politicians, they seem stiff and dull and uninteresting. And the sad reality is most people aren't like us. They're not, where we gotta eat and sleep and breathe this shit. It's never boring to us. Well, that's not true. It's usually not boring. It's usually not boring to us. But what TJ,
I spent several hours today looking at international asylum law. It was boring as shit.
For fun? You did that for fun? Or was
not for
work?
Fun, because for research purposes.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's not fun for anyone.
No.
Oh, but yeah, but what we say, 75% of the population just glaze over at the thought of you talking about this shit, and it's like, oh, it's election time. Guess I start paying attention. But yeah, and I think the messengers are pretty bad. They get up there and you hear Mike Johnson talk for 2 minutes. No, fuck out of here. I'm not doing that. It's awful.
Well, so I think we were spoiled with Obama. I think Obama spoiled an entire generation because you truly have someone who was able to engage the audience, right? You had probably one of the greatest orators that we have had ever, who just so happened to be president. That is not the norm. President's job really is about making decisions, building a team around them, or not even just the president, just politicians in general, right? They don't have that charisma. That's not what they're about. And so I think we had Obama and we were spoiled, and now we're just I want more of that. I want more of that. Where is that? And that really was an enigma. That was a once in a lifetime thing.
I really wonder, I would love to go to an alternate timeline where Obama wasn't the first Black president and he ran for president now in today's media landscape, because he had so much pressure on him to be as respectable as possible.
Yeah.
Not be the thing that the Republicans would paint him out to be the moment he slipped up and, I don't know, wore a tan suit or some shit. But if you took his charisma, oration skills, and put him in today's environment, it would be even better. Like if he could just like every once in a while lay the smackdown on some Republicans, like he would be really good at it, and it would have been fun to watch. I feel like TJ, you're looking like you might disagree.
Well, so the reason that I think it would be different is because today's political environment is a direct result of Barack Obama's presidency. It would be radically different if Obama never existed. So if there were a black president who was like, I don't know, Jimmy Carter or even Clinton, maybe. God, hopefully not. But but it's just like a more standard politician. The reaction would have been bad, but the fact that Obama was so immediately accepted and loved by the majority of the population really irked a lot of folk, and that's what led to Trump, which led to this insane polarization toward the right wing. So I don't know. I just don't know if I see what you're saying, but without Obama's existence, I think the political landscape would look a lot more like it did in 2004, something like that.
That's actually it's fair, but I don't,
would it though? Like I will throw a little. I agree with you. I agree with you in that he gave us the political landscape and that so many people were resentful for him, and it brought all the racists out, and that gave us Trump, and that brought us who we are. But also, too, something that happened along with his presidency is social media, right? And people, arguing with strangers online, and people being emboldened in their racism, and people being emboldened with their views, and people realizing, oh, so-and-so across the way is just as, crazy or racist as I am. And that has created also the atmosphere that gave us Trump. So I think it's a combination of like the comment sections coming to life in politics, because that's really what's happened is we now just have comment sections. Like it used to be like, don't read the comments. The comments are literally running for office. Like all of the horrible is what we see now. So I don't know. I would love to see, though, to your point, I would love to see an Obama that could just be who he wanted to be and truly just give no fucks and just be like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say because you can't do anything about it.
Kara, I want you to go, and I don't know how to do this, but go to whoever you have to do this to trademark what you just said. The comments section has become
was great.
humongous.
That was
great. Did you get that from somewhere? Because that was
really good.
No, I made that up.
That was great. I noticed that too. I was like, damn, that's a good one. That's a good way to put it. It's true. It's so true. Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. Have you seen the gal who's running for state AG? And she made a video and she's running and she's like, don't be weak and gay. And I just was like, what is happening? Like, what does this have to do with your job? Like, at what point did the politicians that we elect stop being the nerdy, smart people? Like the nerdy, smart people who understood the law and who could, not saying that was better, but at some point we literally have a woman who's running for state G and her platform is don't be weak and gay as she's running in a bulletproof vest. That's the comment sections coming to life.
Wow, I hadn't seen that. It's
bad. It's so bad.
That's so fucked up. It's just.
And I didn't even paraphrase. She literally says you could be many things. Don't be weak and gay.
It's just straight. It's just straight. And the funny thing is, Carrie, I remember, when Trump was coming up and when he was president, there was a lot of he's not actually racist. Like there's a lot of we're pushing back against the more opaquely or transparently bigoted things, and that has seemingly just gone out the window.
It doesn't exist anymore.
And it really goes to show all of those people who said, "Oh, I support gay marriage now." They're fucking lying. Yeah, just like we knew they were. But at least it's nice to know they were fucking lying.
This is something that we've seen it over the years, and The thing that gets me about conservatism, or one of the many things, is how their message is always exactly the same. It has not changed since the 1960s or 1860s, for that matter, pretty much. And they just find a new way to repackage it. So when I was a kid, they would whine about political incorrectness. It's political incorrectness run amok. And there would be, I mean, this is before, 24-hour cable news, really, but they would be talking about stuff. Man, can you believe this newspaper is no longer saying policeman? It's saying police officer. This is an outrage. We cannot stand for this shit. And they would whine about this stuff. They would whine about it all the time. And every time someone makes a minor change, just the smallest thing possible, they just lose their mind. And I was like, how can you keep the energy up to do this? How can, and that's probably it, that you can't. You can't keep the energy up to whine about this stuff. So you just revert. That's why Trump was such a cathartic release to these folks, that he's no longer up there Jeb Bush saying, we need to protect American jobs, when what he means is Mexicans are rapists. Trump just says Mexicans are rapists. Finally someone's saying what I believe. But the amount of time from Trump just getting rid of euphemisms to conservatives just openly embracing literal fascism and Nazi shit has been lightning fast. They got on that train real quick. Bad analogy, but they got there real quick. With the I didn't mean that. I said that.
I didn't even notice until you said bad analogy.
What's the left behind? Yeah, you got to be careful when you're doing content. Oh, you don't want someone to take that. But it's just awful how eagerly and exuberantly that they've embraced this Nazi stuff, and they're. I would say they're not hiding it, but most of them hide behind, anonymous accounts. So they're hiding it a little bit, but they're saying it, which you never really heard in the past.
Right. They're saying it. They're embracing it. I mean, just think about the United Reich, outrage video that came out a few days ago. There was nary one Republican that condemned him for that or just spoke against that. They literally are a party that is beholden. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's a cult. MAGA is a cult. I agree. MAGA is a cult. But the politicians, that to me is more like a mob family. That to me is people who are afraid or are not able to go against dear leader for fear of, that's mob mentality right there. I mean, they wear the same suits. Oh
my God.
I have that. Blue suit, red tie. Blue suit,
I have
red
that
tie.
for in fact, we can go to that right now, actually. We'll hop right to that since Carrie mentioned it. So the segment that I wanted to cover, and I don't really have an actual theme with this other than just Trump's trial in general. We actually haven't talked about it on the show, John and I, with any of our guests or anything, because honestly, out of Trump's 4 cases, this is the one we care the least about. And it's it's one of those weird things too, that letter of the law, he did break the law. He absolutely did. There's no way around it. And his lawyer went to jail for it. And his lawyer's fessing up for everything. But God, when it's lined up against the mountain of shit that Trump did, you can barely see this thing. And what I've been fascinated by, I've just been captivated, is just the essence and the steps of the trial itself. Because Trump gets there, and every time he would go out and talk about it, do you guys notice this? He would always bitch about how cold the courtroom was. Have you guys seen this? Well, every time, which is real. I don't know why he keeps doing it. Because it makes him seem like he's weak. Like, why do you keep complaining? And he refers to it as the ice box. And then him shitting on the judge, which I've never been a defendant in a court of law, but I'm pretty sure the last thing you want to do is publicly shit on the judge presiding over your case. And he was found in contempt of court 10 times by this judge. And then last week or the week before, the judge told Trump and his legal team, I think he dismissed everybody from the court to talk to Trump's counsel, and said, listen, your client has been in contempt of court 10 times. He's been fining him a couple grand each time. Trump doesn't care. He's got the money, and well, for now at least. And he doesn't care. And so he's like, okay, look, the next time Donald Trump goes out and breaks this gag order, I am putting his ass in jail. It's going to happen. And so Trump did something, look, genius, gotta say, it is genius that instead of going out there and shitting on the judge, he like brings up news articles from Fox News. And according to Bill Hemmer, this judge is a rank amateur, which is very funny that he found a way to sneak around the order. But we'll go to Carrie first. What's been your thoughts on this this grand example of our legal system before our eyes these past few weeks?
It's just been a shit show, right? So speaking of those 10 times that he was found in contempt. So the swingers down at the villages, you know, the villages in Florida, the old people that swing, they paid the fines. Did you know that?
What?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, the swingers and I don't know if the exact people, but that community, the villager, they had a little fundraiser and they paid for those fines. That's just crazy. I
how much of a sycophant must you be? Like I can't imagine how miserable I must be to pay someone I think is a billionaire's legal fees. Like come on.
We need a word for someone who has like $200 million and more. That's in the same category to me. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then I think it was Lieutenant Dan Patrick who was there just a few days ago. And he was talking about how it's the ruling class and how they're coming out to get it. It's like, bitch, he shits on a golden toilet and flies around the country. Like, he is the ruling class. Like, what is happening here? Like, it's just, it is crazy to me. I don't have high hopes that there's going to be I think it'll end up being a mistrial, hung jury, but man, it would be nice for him to get a guilty plea.
Narrator, I thought the same thing.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. That's funny. Yeah, I saw that clip with Dan Patrick, and he actually, because the reporter asked, it was like he was railing against the ruling class, has it out for Donald Trump, and this reporter is yelling, "Hey, isn't Donald Trump part of the ruling class?" The man said no. He said no. Donald Trump is not part of the ruling class. The guy who was our ruler like 3.5 years ago, not part of the ruling class. You know, he is in it for the common people. It's like, God damn, how good. I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. And as far as I didn't hear about the villagers, that is very funny though, because it's embarrassing, but I can't think of a better group of people to rip off than old rich bigots. Go for it. You know, if you can scam them, there couldn't happen to a better group of people.
Exactly.
So we've kind of touched on 2 points here, which I think kind of arrive at the same conclusion, is that this isn't a real trial in the sense that the victory condition isn't a not guilty verdict for Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump probably wants to win the trial because he just wants to win everything he does because he's an egomaniac, but like he doesn't need to. He doesn't. This trial isn't going to stop him from being president. It's not going to like put him in jail for any significant amount of time. Even if it does, it's probably just going to be house arrest and whatever. Like it's not going to impact him that much. Yeah, any other defendant wouldn't want to insult the judge presiding over their trial. But for him, he has to, because if he loses, then his political goal is to attack everyone and say it was a political attack. It was a witch hunt. It was X, Y, and Z. They're coming after me. They're using the state to come after me. It's the ruling class versus us common people. And obviously we're all laughing. He's not these common people. But if you look at far right rhetoric, they often steal the language of progressivism in order to convince the working class masses that they're the good guys. You know, don't listen to those damn commies. They don't have the working class at heart. It's us, the Donald Trumps of the world, who shit on golden toilets and have had multiple fucking lawsuits lost about not giving black people their fucking wages. like that's the guy. That's the guy that we want taking care of us. And this trial in a nutshell is very, very much demonstrating those two things. I think it's going to be very clear. I don't think it matters whether he wins or loses. I know that the article that you sent, TJ, said that 1/4 of Republicans said they won't vote for him if he's convicted of a crime. Fucking bullshit. Like, liberals, I would believe. Like liberals would be like, yeah, no, if Biden was convicted of a crime, liberals would line up to vote for Donald Trump. But maybe not vote, but they wouldn't vote at all, at least. But I don't think that the Republicans have that fucking conviction inside them.
I'll come back to that after Carrie talks. I'll come back to that. But,
well, there was just one thing that I did find super interesting, and nobody is talking about it. Nobody is talking about it. So the details came out, and he could have been charged with a crime at that time about this too. So he paid $50,000 to a computer guy, a contractor, to rig polls in 2015. It was a CNBC poll. He didn't like the numbers, and he did the same thing. He said, "Okay, I'll pay you, $50K." The guy went out, and I think he went and obtained a bunch of IP addresses that they were going to use to manipulate the CNBC poll. And the guy, Trump, ended up stiffing him. Y'all, he didn't like the polls back then. And he was, and so, like, to me, I'm just like, why is nobody talking about the glaring, the fact that we are inundated with polls? The polls are just freaking flooding the zone, that we're being flooded with these polls. They are anywhere between 8 to 15% off. They're all wrong. They don't predict shit, but they make someone look good. And here we have verified documentation that he paid people to influence polls. Like, that was the only thing that I thought was really interesting, that I feel like we should investigate that a little bit more.
I hadn't heard that. And I hadn't heard that, but this is something I've been saying for a long time about polls. I've actually been saying it for a while. I used to make fun of people years ago, because Republicans would always do this, like in 2000, 2004, like, oh, don't believe the polls, don't believe the polls. The polls were fairly accurate. Like, the polls, like, pretty much got it every time. These last couple elections, no, awful. Just and awful in the Republicans' favor. Like, the Republicans always did way better. Because when John and I talk about it, we always mention what you said, Carrie, that over the last two elections, the Democrats have overperformed by like 8 to 9 points in these last two elections. But another way to say it is that Republicans have underperformed for the actual elections, which is what I'm going to start saying from now on. And I think the Trump effect plays a lot into this, in that most people aren't picking up their phones to answer random numbers to, say, yeah, God, I cannot wait to vote for Joe Biden. That is a very small percent of the population. Now, it's an even smaller percent for Trump, but they will do it. Like, they love broadcasting how much they love voting for Trump. And I hadn't heard about. You said he was paying. It was
one
promised
contractor. Yeah, it was $50,000, and it was kind of the same deal where Michael Cohen, he was supposed to get paid with a cashier's check. The guy showed up to his office, and then he tried to stiff him somehow. So and it was right around the same time, and they actually had testimony of that just this last week. And he was paid to buy these IP addresses so they could use those to alter the results of the CNBC poll.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, but maybe a reason we haven't, because CNBC is like a major network and they're kind of embarrassed by that. Like, I don't know, because that might be it. I don't know, but I had
because Fox News would run with it if it wasn't incriminating Donald Trump, and MSNBC ain't going to talk about it because it makes them look bad. I guess CNN, but CNN. CNN,
I don't even think they. Yeah. It's just that nobody talks about it, which is just crazy to me, because we all know that this man is obsessed with image. We all know that he creates this fake world around him. Like, he is obsessed with ratings. He is obsessed with election results. He will hire fake union workers to portray the image that he is a union guy. He hires people to come to his rallies. We have actual evidence where he paid someone in 2015 to alter polls. And we have 2 election cycles worth of polls that are so far off that they don't do anything but pad his ego. And I'm just saying, if I was a person, like a data person, I would be like, something's going on here, which is why I think, I'll just say it, I don't think that the Biden campaign truly is worried about these polls, because they have their own internal polling.
This is John and I, listen, it's eerie how similar what you're saying is to what we say. Yeah. Because I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I think the election is I would bet everything I own the Democrats are going to win the House. The Senate is a little tighter because the Democrats are defending 20 seats and Republicans are only defending like 10. So like the Republicans have the home court advantage there. But either way, the Senate's going to be, someone will have 52 votes, someone will have 48. It'll be pretty close. And knowing everything about what we said about the polls and about the push for Roe v. Wade and everything, I think Biden, I would bet Biden would win. Like if I had to choose, like I still think it's Biden, even though the polls don't say that. So people think it's weird. And, you know, there's the whole thing, like people aren't excited for Biden. He's going to lose some support for the whole Gaza thing. But more people, like most of your normies are still going to kind of, you know, be, you know, for Democrats in general, if not necessarily for Biden. So I agree. I think the same thing. And the polls are reflecting a reality that I don't think is that's not to say I don't think Biden should be worried. I don't think you should just ignore everything. I think that's a bad move.
You should always be worried. Yeah.
That's where I stand, Carrie. I am more pro poll than I think either of you are. But I also like I would stake my house that I don't know that Biden's going to win in November, and the Democrats are probably going to do quite well. But it's not because of either Biden or Trump. It's mostly Roe v. Wade. Like that's I would say that like everyone's mind is made up and it's just about get out the vote. And the thing that's going to get out the vote the most this election cycle is going to be abortion rights, and Republicans are going to get their ass about it. But I'm more concerned. I'm going to throw you. I want to finish this. I'm less concerned about the polls. Way more concerned that Biden seems to not be concerned about the polls. That concerns me significantly.
I'm not. And the reason why I'm not, y'all, is because there's other factors that you look at besides the polls, right? So we all know that for the last few election cycles that the Republicans have been flooding with BS polls. We know that. That's not to say that polling data can't be useful, but these people, the campaigns, they have their own polling people. They have their own internal polling data. They are doing their own polls. And you have to look at other factors. So some things that we don't ever talk about, the fact that Donald Trump has lost 25% of his individual donors, 25%. Meanwhile, the Biden campaign has picked up more individual donors than any other campaign in history. So you have to look at, okay, well, if more people are willing to put their money, their hard-earned money in this economy, right, behind a campaign, and there's more grassroots donation, that counts to me. That's more than a poll of 900 people who happen to answer a phone from an unknown number. Like if you're putting your money where you're like, that to me is a huge deal. And I feel like we should like relish in that and not all the time doom and gloom. Like I'm so sick of the doom and gloom on the polls that's what they do.
We did an episode, or at least a part of the episode, about this very thing a couple of months ago. And I pulled up the numbers from, I think, 3 states. It was Arizona, Michigan, Minnesota, and I think Maryland. And it showed not only like the cash on hand for the state Republican parties, like the state of Michigan, I think, had $53. Like the state of Republican party for Michigan had $53. And the RNC is hemorrhaging cash, and they're going to hemorrhage more because Donald Trump's fucking daughter-in-law is the chair. And so all the money is going to his campaigns. And Charlie Kirk, of all people, like a month or 2 ago, did a video. I don't know if you guys saw it, where he talked about how many like offices the Biden campaign has set up compared to Trump. Biden is up like 10 times as many offices. So yeah, like looking at the bird's eye view of it, it's if you didn't know anything about what was going on, you'd be like, okay, this side is definitely doing better than the other. It's just, I think that people are. This is also this is kind of long, but what is that people were so traumatized by 2016. Like no one was prepared for that Donald Trump could actually win, and did. People got out of bed and voted for him. That I understand the apprehension, and that people should keep that. And so, because I don't know about you, Carrie, whenever I say stuff like that, I get a lot of comments like, don't be saying stuff like this. Don't be depressing. I was like, first off, who do you think I am? Like, people are going to vote because I'm going to give them a review on that. But I'm just saying how it is. And I understand that's a big part of it too. Because like, John, you said that you don't think it'd be Biden or Trump. I think it will be Trump because people can't wait to vote against Trump, and that's gonna be, if anything, in society, there's gonna be the anti-Trump vote.
I'm more meant. It's not because of anything they are going to do between. Now
Gotcha.
And yeah. The one thing I want to say is we talked a lot when the Republican debates first started. How we started a whole episode about Ron DeSantis. And then halfway through, we realized we were talking about Trump the entire time. And we were like, you know what? This is exactly why Ron DeSantis doesn't stand a chance, because this segment was titled about Ron DeSantis, and we spent most of the time talking about Donald Trump. And I just want to acknowledge that this was a segment about Trump that we just spent half the time talking about Joe Biden. And not in a bad way.
So
not on Joe Biden like you like to do.
If you ever have me on your show, I will do that. Like, I'm big into you have to flip the script a little bit. I feel like there's a fine line. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We cannot take anything for granted. And personally, if people want to think and believe these polls, I think it's good because it keeps people engaged. It keeps them motivated. It's like, hey, we're going to get out and we're going to be involved. But truthfully, I think there is a huge underestimation. I can't even say the word of the ground game that the Democrats have. I mean, like, if you look at what happened in Maryland with Angela, with that race, the Senate race that just happened, if you look at the last races that have happened in Wisconsin and what those state parties have able to do, Wisconsin did not leave one door unknocked during that Supreme Court race. Like, that party went out. Like, they have amassed a really impressive ground game that people don't talk about. And that's why you're seeing the difference in the results on the elections.
Now, there's the other side of that coin, though, where, the Democrats' ground game is stunningly better. They've raised so much more money. They've opened up so many more campaign offices. And yet it hasn't reflected in the polls at all.
But has it reflected in the election results?
In the elections, that's what I would say. Elections, definitely.
I'll put it. We've said this before. It's an embarrassment that it's ever even close, and it shouldn't be. I'm not going to stop being worried until the fat lady says.
Until it actually.
You got to be worried. Exactly. We have to. You're right. I think we all have different PTSD. I think it's like a fine line saying, okay, you got to like keep people motivated so they don't feel dejected, like, oh, it's over. But at the same time, don't get comfortable because we still got work to do. Like, I hear what you're saying.
Well, let us know in the comments. I want to know what our audience thinks. Do you believe the polls or do you believe the fundraising numbers? Which one are you putting more weight behind right now? Let us know in the comments, and see you guys next show.
Good stuff. Let me get the timestamp for 52. So this was probably from a while ago. I didn't see the billionaire president not ruling class. I know. Even if you're not a billionaire, like just being the president itself, like the president is essentially a minor king. I mean, you're the most powerful person on planet Earth. So, I wanted to. This is like we're in a break, but wanted to. So, this is something that Trump tweeted out the other day. So, for those of you who didn't know, they unsealed the FBI, like the warrants to go get the stuff from Mar-a-Lago, and it was a standard warrant that the FBI always uses, and it goes through contingencies and stuff. And they say, oh, by the way, there's armed security there. The Secret Service is there. On the off chance something goes wrong, you're authorized to use deadly force, like the FBI always is. The FBI with guns? You got to be kidding me. So Trump found out about this and went out and posted that day, wow, I just came out of the Biden witch hunt trial in Manhattan, the icebox, once again bitching about how cold it is in there. And was shown reports that crooked Joe Biden's Department of Justice and their illegal and unconstitutional, like the C is capitalized inexplicably. I don't know why. Unconstitutional raid of Mar-a-Lago authorized the FBI to use deadly lethal force. Now we know for sure that Joe Biden's a serious threat to democracy. He is mentally unfit to hold office. 25th Amendment. 25th Amendment is the amendment that allows the president's cabinet to remove the president from office if they deem him incompetent. But it's funny that Trump has been complaining about this, and Republicans in general saying stuff like, oh my God, Joe Biden tried to assassinate Donald Trump. It's funny for two reasons. First is because Trump wasn't even there and the FBI knew. Like he wasn't even at Mar-a-Lago when it happened, so there's no chance of him getting shot unless they fired like an intercontinental ballistic missile at him. Is that what they're saying? But and the second thing is that haven't Trump's lawyers been briefing the Supreme Court that it's perfectly okay for the president to assassinate a rival? Like, haven't they said that out loud? So I don't know what they're complaining about.
TJ, I'm a strong, God-fearing conservative American, and I do not stand by the right of our police officers to use lethal force when making an arrest.
That's something we would never stand for.
You know what's crazy, though, is Joe Biden is so sinister that he also authorized lethal force when they raided his place for documents. So he authorized his assassination attempt on himself.
Joe Biden's one of the most complicated suicide by cop in history.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Carrie, because whenever, God, I can't believe how often I've had this conversation that I get not everyone pays attention to shit, but if you're going to make an argument, like do have the decency to do 10 seconds of work before you make it, where they bring up the fact that Biden had classified documents in his garage by his Porsche. It's also weird that Joe Biden has a Porsche does he drive? It's just, I can't imagine Joe Biden driving a Porsche. Yeah, Trump brings it up all the time.
He's a huge car guy. Yeah.
Oh, it seems weird. Maybe, I can see young Joe Biden doing it. Now it's just odd, thinking of it that way. But so they say, well, Biden had classified documents too. It's like, yeah, like the government officials have classified documents all the time. It's not that weird. Biden's team found those documents, told Biden about it. He called the presidential records. Like, oh yeah, hey, I got these documents here. I'm going to turn them over. Like, oh, all right, cool. Do you mind if we come by and look for some more? Biden said, sure thing. Walk right in. And that's what happened. And Trump couldn't be any more different. Like, could not be any more different. And I just hate that they keep saying this shit that, Trump has been hiding that stuff for a year and a half. And it was the same thing as Biden saying, yeah, feel free, look around, get what you need. It's obnoxious. And I wanted to, we talked about earlier. Go ahead.
But they did, in that same set of documents that they released, though, that day. And I think, again, not enough people talked about it, is that, they said that a Trump campaign super PAC, his Save America PAC, a staffer was uploading and scanning the top secret documents to a, super PAC computer. And that's important. Like, that's important details that I feel like we should talk about. I mean, there was a whole thing about, an email lady using a private server, remember? And now we have staffers.
I know, right? Remember that one?
I remember that, yeah. Wasn't that, I just saw that story a couple days ago. Has that always been out? Because I knew that it was after the raid, they still had more stuff, and they were scanning. That's what I remember seeing, because, like, God, I need to know what was on those files. Like, what did Trump want so fucking, because I honestly can't think of anything. I can't. Well, I know they had the plans to invade Iran.
Yeah, like there's too much that he actually read all of it. I don't believe that he read all of the files or even knew what was in them.
Well, so this is kind of derailed here, but I've been thinking this since this started, that when the Republicans, it's been so fun watching the Republicans kind of shift fire, trying to come up with new excuses. Oh, he actually declassified them to, he was hiding it because he had dirt on some pedophiles that he didn't bother telling anybody for 3 years. He just kept it to himself, which makes it seem a little bit more suspect if you ask me. And so there's, okay, answer me this. Why does he have these documents? Like, whatever, like you can't just declassify shit in your head, because with government classified documents, just because the documents, this is weird, just because the document's classified, the information on the document may not be unclassified. That's why stuff is redacted and everything. And other people have to know it's declassified so people don't get shot. This is spies are on this stuff. And it's like, why does he need it? And Republicans try to dodge it, but I really want to know, like, is it just so he could be cool?
He answered the question. I think he answered why he had them.
I remember his answer is because I could.
Money.
I don't remember. What? I didn't hear about that. What did he say?
He could sell them. He was justified.
What did he? Because I know he wants to sell them argument for why he has them. I haven't heard.
I never said that. Yeah.
Say that.
It was an interview with and he didn't say it like, oh, I want to sell them, but basically this is what he said. It was an interview with the Fox News guy.
Brett Baer, Sean Hannity.
Sean Hannity. Yeah, Sean Hannity. It was an interview with him, and he was talking about how so-and-so, it was maybe Nixon, or it was an ex-president who made, like 12 to some $1 million with, materials or something that they had. So basically he was insinuating that, these are mine. I'm entitled to these. And it's just like, I think it was purely, a value, like he knew that the documents were valuable and maybe didn't know what he could do with them, but knew he would be able to, turn a profit with them. That's that's the least sinister you could say. The more sinister is,
he knew exactly what was in the documents. Yeah, but I always when it comes to people like Donald Trump, I go by the adage of don't mistakenly believe something is a stroke of genius, which could easily be explained by incompetence. And that I just imagine, he took a bunch of documents that there might be something, and he threw them in his fucking bathroom, and he probably never thought about them again. Like there might have been a couple that he knew he was going to sell, but like
it's just because this is what gets me. What gets me with this is that what we know of one case of what he did with highly sensitive military documents. He was waving them around, showing Chris Rock and his biographer. Like, why? I'm not Chris Rock, Kid Rock. Kid Rock. And Chris Rock. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, but his biographer is like, there's nothing to gain out of this. You're just, oh, look how cool I am and shit. God, he's such a fucking moron, this guy. But I wanted to show this too, that we talked about earlier, is that the Republicans that have been showing up to defend Trump have come dressed up as Trump. And I'm so glad that Carrie mentioned that. But you had all these congressmen and a couple senators, and they just showed up, in the blue suit and red tie thing. The only exception was Mike Johnson. He had a red and blue tie because he's a very special boy. He's the Speaker of the House, so he gets to wear a different tie. But it's like weird, creepy shit that they came dressed like this. Like that. Mm-hmm. That's just like it's we joke about
shit.
Yeah, like, it is. Yeah.
All right, and that's our thumbnail, by the way, because Vivek's
the Spirit Halloween freaking costume is gonna write itself. Like this Halloween is you're just gonna see a plethora of these, and it could be, I don't know what you would name it. There's so many options. That would be a good Buzzfeed quiz. Truthfully, what's the name of this Spirit Halloween costume?
We wrapped it back to Buzzfeed.
Which Republican at Donald Trump's trial are you based on your outfit? Every answer is the same.
Yeah.
Which Trump clone are you? I'm South Dakota Trump. I'm Indian American Trump. I'm Black American Trump. Like, it's just like different types of Trumps. God, what a weird time to be alive. What a sick fucking time to be alive, man. I don't even know. That's some wild stuff.
And what does that group text look like? That's what I want to know. Like,
Marjorie's running her mouth again. I believe the poll is more than fundraising, but will not root for the American empire to make the statement that genocide is excusable in Twitter. This reminds me. So this is a prevailing thought. Like, it's like, actually, before I get to that, I want to talk about something John said before I forget, where you said that you didn't believe a poll saying that 1/4 of Republicans wouldn't vote for Trump if he was convicted. Now, I don't either. That's way too high, but it's higher than I would have guessed. And the only reason I'm saying that is because this Nikki Haley thing that's happening in all these primaries, which, look, I'd have lost that bet. There's no shot that Nikki Haley we win 20%, 25% of Republicans when she's not even running. And what I was thinking, I was a doubter on this. I was like, this might be some sort of Democrat thing. Like, they don't bother voting for Biden. They just want to make Trump look bad. No, because in Maryland, she won like 22% in a closed primary state. Every one of those voters were Republicans, and 1/5 of them voted against Trump. So I don't think all of them would vote against Trump if he were committed or committed. Couldn't that be great? If he was convicted in a court case, but I could imagine maybe 10%, like maybe 7 or 8, like more than I would have guessed, like which would be 0, honestly. So that's a little silver lining, I think.
What I want to know is how many of those Republicans and independents, for that matter, because I think independents, it was like 70% said they wouldn't vote for him if convicted. How many of them would have not voted for him already? Like that's the thing, because like I can believe there's a sizable portion of Republicans that won't vote for Trump. I totally believe that. 25 seems high to me. So, but
no way.
I want to know like what percentage flip their vote based on whether Trump gets convicted or not. Because I just, again, like we've said, I don't understand how you can be an undecided voter, but like I don't understand how like, oh, you know, Trump, I've been rooting for him so far, but if he gets a conviction, that's going to be where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Look. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
No, you make a good point though. Like, I don't see where the conviction, makes that. I can just tell you like a personal story though. I have watched my father go from being a lifelong Republican, like I'm talking 20-year military veteran. He's the guy that like stops, and salutes when the national anthem comes on. I have watched him since 2016 go from being a Republican to literally, he was just here a few weeks ago talking about if Trump wins, they will probably spend their retirement outside of this country. Like he literally has went from being the most patriotic person I have ever met to not wanting to be in the country. And a sizable amount of that has come after 2020. So I don't know.
Really?
I think that generation, I do. I think that older generation, when we look at the statements that he made about, NATO, and you look at, the World War II generation or that generation that are very loyal voters, that, they don't take kindly on a lot of that stuff. So a lot of the, conservatives that aren't necessarily MAGA have definitely left the Republican Party. Like I was sitting there in shock. When my father, who he and I have gotten into it on so many things, and he literally said, we will leave this country.
Wow.
I've been saying something similar where like the moment that Biden can get Trump admitting to just like wanting to be a dictator on a hot mic during debate, it's over. It's because there's so many like your father, older Americans over the age of 70 who would normally be Republican voters who grew up with Hitler on the mind and definitely don't want that. Like the younger generation, like my generation, like, yeah, we learned about it in school in history class, but we didn't live that. And so like, it's not as personal and pressing to a lot of us, but like for that generation, it is burned into their core. And when they hear shit like that, it's like, yo, bad. We know this is bad. We experienced this. And in a way that a lot of the rank and file Republicans under the age of 55 just didn't.
I agree.
I like this idea that it's burned into their memory one of two ways. Either, hey, we need more of this stuff.
There are a couple like that.
That is true.
Yeah, it's a lot of them are like, man, those were the good old days, weren't they? But it's just true. But this is so. I was kind of surprised to hear you say it happened after 2020. That because I've seen not a whole lot, but I have seen a larger number than I thought. In fact, I just reconnected with a friend of mine from college, like someone I hadn't talked to in 20 years, and she was saying that she was a Republican until Trump came along. And this is something I always say because I was a conservative back in those days too. That I was long gone from, even moderate conservatism by the time Trump ran. But if I were still a conservative, Trump would have been the last straw. Like, I guess I could have still been a conservative. There's no way in hell I would have voted for Donald Trump. It would have never happened. And she was saying that, just seeing Trump and like everything that he said, like, say what you want about conservative values, they're dog shit. But Trump doesn't even live up to those. Like he doesn't even live up to that. And so she said, yeah, I've, and she's a leftist now. She's completely come over to the right side of these things. But so I've seen people kind of fall off after 2016. After 2020, oh, was it January 6th? Was that what did it?
Well, let me clarify. He didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but he wasn't as outspoken. Like he wasn't, I guess, as in tune. So I guess he was still susceptible to the propaganda that Trump would put out. But it was January 6th. It was the comments about, it was the documents. It was the court cases. His big thing now is just like looking at how he really has tuned into how dysfunctional the Republican Party is. And then he said something that was really interesting to me. He said, and this, I am biracial. This is my white father who raised me, adopted me. But he said, the racism. He said, it's the racism. He said, I don't know if it's just my eyes have just not been open to it. He said, but I just am appalled. So he's really seeing things that he's never seen before. And for a man in their 70s, for a guy in his 70s, old people, they are just set in their ways. And he's like really kind of had an awakening. And I think we can contribute it to Donald Trump because the outrageousness of it all has caused him to pay attention. So
it's like with your dad, I think it's like what we talked about before, that in the past, they always had like the plausible deniability when it came to the racism. There was always like, black folks, it's not that we look down on them. It's just that if those dads would just take care of their kids, everything would be better, and if only their work ethic was, it was always like this, masked way to kind of say, announce their bigotry. But now that they're just saying it, it's, which I got to tell you, which makes it harder to deny, but makes it a lot more depressing that people you knew, back in the day who you assume were normal folks, like, oh no, they were just as racist as everybody else. They were just pretty good at hiding it. So yeah, that's kind of sad to see.
In 2016, what was I in 2016? I was 20, and I walked into my uncle's room at like a family gathering, and I saw the Trump hat, and I was just like I had this moment. I was like, fuck, this man was responsible for keeping me alive at some point, and he's a fucking idiot. I remember having that coming of age realization of wow, the people who I looked up to growing up, fuck, they're not all that I might have thought they were.
Yeah.
I always my dad is like the really rare person who, he was in the military, the Air Force for 20 years. And he was around, a lot of black people, and he had a lot of different, friends of colors. He raised me. He truly is that person, that kind of non-problematic, but problematic in that he would not admit that racism was as big of a problem as it was, right? He tried to see the world through rosy glasses. And I think, and I kind of I can see that the rosy glasses, they're not rosy anymore for him. And so now he's really seeing the world for what it is. And I think that that's both sad and also good. And that you can say, okay, well, maybe there has been some good that's come out of this complete dysfunction that we are seeing on a national level, is that it is causing people who previously would have glossed things over and not tried to be a part of a solution, actually now try to be a part of a solution. So
I agree. I'll write that down. That's a segment there. We always have these impromptu segments where we always, without fail. It's pretty great. You want to do the bumper now, John?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So, yeah, just a reminder. So John's just going to say, hey, folks, thanks for watching the show and everything. And then he'll say, Carrie's our guest. Where can we find her content? You can plug your stuff, and then we'll finish it out.
All right, guys, once again, if you have made it to the end of this video, congratulations. You are our favorite viewer. You, right now. No, not the next person who makes it to the end of this video. You. Thank you very much. If you haven't done it already, please like and subscribe. And if you liked what we had to say today, that probably means you liked what Miss Care Bear had to say today. So how about you tell our audience where they can find you?
They can find me on TikTok. It is my third account because, TikTok loves to ban people. I am Care Bear 3.0. I am on Twitter or X at MPLS Care Bear. I am also on Threads, although I always forget to post. And I do a little Sunday live on TikTok every Sunday at 12 o'clock Central, where we take an hour and just talk about politics and whatnot. So would love to have you guys join in there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, John. We appreciate you guys watching the show. All four of us, TJ, John, Carrie, and Wolfie. We really appreciate you coming in. It's been a good time. Catch you next time. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right.
Cameo.
I got the Wolfie cameo. Yeah. We got to get him a microphone.
Yay, Wolfie. Hi. Oh.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He always whines and cries whenever I'm on the computer, I'm on the phone, if I'm doing Zoom calls. He's just a big old baby, and so he just wants to know what's going on. So I don't know. John did this. Say what?
He just wants to be involved.
Yeah, I know. He just wants to be. Oh, I forgot to address narrator's comment about the genocide thing. So what I talk about this all the time is what I've seen a lot. This is actually the first time that there's been any sort of divide when it comes to like millennials and Gen Z. Like this is the first time I've seen like an actual schism. And so millennials, especially very old ones like myself, we are pretty much all on board with it. Yeah, we're definitely voting blue. And so, but the younger, but I get it. Like if you're going to draw a red line, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. And so what I always tell people is that when it comes to this stuff is what I mentioned on the show is people spend a lot of time on persuasion when they should be focused on mobilization. Persuasion is a waste of your goddamn time. It is. You are never gonna yell at someone or even convince them, especially if you have someone who says that I will never vote for Joe Biden in a million years. That is one of two types of people. It is one, a dyed-in-the-wool, apple, bright red conservative or Trump supporter. Or two, most likely, it's going to be someone's like, yeah, I don't like the fact that he hasn't pulled the plug on Israel. And either way, you're not changing that person's mind. You're not. It's not going to happen. So don't bother trying to. It's not. Instead, go out and talk to the people who already are more likely to agree. Now, that's just an example, but this applies to everything about politics. And you're just going to waste your breath and your time and their time when someone's already made a decision like that. So I don't fault anyone for that. I don't. It's like, hey, that's your decision. Your vote is yours. Literally, no one. You are entitled to do whatever you want with it. But if you want to engage in stuff like this, focus on people who you can win over, and not people who've already made up your mind. That's all I say, man. But I say that all the time with the speech, but no one listens. But hey, whatever.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I will just add one thing to that, though. But if I am talking about a very real consequence of being elected president, that's not me fear-mongering you. That's me discussing a very real consequence of an election. And that's not me trying to vote shame you or really tell you that you must do this, this, and this. It's really just to make sure that we're all aware of, okay, that's a conscious choice that you're making. This could very well be a consequence of that choice. And, that is what it is.
Yeah. I think that it's when it comes to the choice there, and narrator said, he commented again, TJ, he said, I'm not a millennial. I think we're getting letting down the younger generations. I work in the West Campaign by my capitalist job right now, which is what a great way to end that. That's such a good encapsulation. But the thing is, the whole not voting, it's game theory. It's prisoner's dilemma. Like it's very basic prisoner's dilemma, and you're like intentionally losing the prisoner's dilemma. It's like you have to have everyone agree to defect. And that's not going to happen because there's not enough of us for that to work. And so you're never going to win. Like the only way that strategy actually works is if you organize and like make that happen. But if you just say, oh, I'm not going to do it just for, my own sake, and like, that's fine. You can use your vote however you want. But, like, it's not actually going to make a difference unless you get enough people to defect, which you will not.
It's something that we mentioned that whenever you're deep in politics and stuff, you're not even just a content creator. If you're just deep in politics, your friends or the people you talk to are likely to think a lot like you. And if you have a position that's very strong and bold, you're going to hear a lot about it, and you get a false impression that there's more of you than there actually are. And this happens to all of us. Like, I'm not just talking about this situation, that it happens to all of us, that we all was like, oh my God, I can't believe we don't have universal health care. And there are a lot of people that believe, but not as many as you think. Like it's an actual argument for some weird reason. And so with the situation in Palestine, yeah, it's immoral as fuck. It's awful, and it's a clear example of ethnic cleansing. But when it comes to the election, it's going to be a minuscule percent of the population that's going to make the decision primarily on that. It's like it's not going to crack the top 5, top 7, top 8 reasons people vote. And that's just the way it's always been. And that's honestly, that's what the polls say. It's weird, oddly enough, going back to the polls and everything. But the second thing I was going to say on this. Also, when it comes to, the thing is that I understand, because I've been there. I've said, I try not to be condescending when I say that, but I've been there and in this exact position. But like what John mentioned, there's no plan here. Again, I would be all on board with, hey, let's scare the shit out of the Democrats and move them as far left as we can possibly go. Let's establish the Red Army and walk over the White House in a tattered red cape. I'm all about that shit, but there's no plan. There isn't. And they're not. And you know how it's not going to work. How my theory was not going to work. It didn't work in 2016. It didn't. When everyone tried to push Sanders and everything, okay, well, now that we saw what happened with Trump, the Democratic Party is going to go, full communist. Did not happen. It just didn't. And I don't see a battle plan to make it work now. So yeah, that's I would be more sympathetic to. Actually, I am very sympathetic to it, but I just don't see a way that it could work. And so if someone can give me a good plan, I'm willing to hear it, but I've yet to hear something that I believe is convincing.
Even 10% odds, I might get behind it. But
I know, right? It's just, it can't work.
I see 0% in front of me.
Wait. So Cornell, what?
No, I just like, do the thing is that I have a daughter. Like I don't know. We all have our issues, right? That are near and dear to our heart. And I tell you, I cannot afford for me not to consider the women's rights and the women's autonomy just for the sake of our daughters. Like that to me is a serious thing. And so that's my single issue. And it just has to be for the survival, I think, of the next generation of our girls. But we all have to do what we all have to do. I think that it makes more sense to engage and not to disengage when it's a zero-sum game. Like, I would be on board if somehow Trump was the better option for what's happening over there, but we all know that not to be true. So I don't quite understand. I don't understand it.
And narrator is saying that the plan is Cornel West, and So here's the thing, narrator. I tremendously respect anyone like yourself working on third-party campaigns and trying to make them happen, because having a third-party candidate gain enough votes in order to establish a party and get funding is a very important stepping stone to fixing a lot of the issues we have. My problem with voting third party is that, again, it's game theory, and you're always going to lose, because in a first past the post electoral system, your people on a mass scale are forced to vote defensively, not offensively. And you cannot convince enough people to not vote defensively where you're actually going to win. So in the sense of a long-term party success plan, I can get behind that and try to support that. What I don't see is any actual viable path to winning for any third-party candidate until we first implement ranked choice voting, so that a third party can actually be successful. Until then, I feel like it's putting the cart before the horse to vote third party, unless there is a candidate like a Ross Perot who you can actually get, I think it's 10% of the vote you need to get. But there's a viable reason to do this.
Okay, but did he get any electoral votes?
0.
But exactly. He got 0.
So
he got the matching funds, which is an important thing for building a party platform. The party didn't do anything.
And then what happened?
He wasn't the guy. But the point here is that that is a 5% offshoot chance that I can take. But
so
could you take it in this time frame though, when you have Christo-fascism at the door? Like, it's different when Vivek was running.
I disagree with that. I think that the threat is always Trump is a unique one, but Bush was unique too, and Bush started a war that killed 1 million people. So I think the argument is like I would just what I want to get back to is Cornel West is on the ballot in 7 states right now, and so it's like I get why it's just like that's not a plan either, but. Anyway, we're getting off track here. We got to get back.
And never. I want to be very clear. I want you to keep doing what the fuck you're doing. I want you to keep fighting that fight, and I will fight there with you. I haven't seen enough to show that voting the third party is going to make any sort of difference in this particular race. But hey, you're right. Maybe I'm fucking brainwashed by that. So the problem is everyone is.
Well, what I say of this is that I think the best game plan is to do exactly what narrator is doing, like exactly saying "fuck you," I'm not voting for you, and then vote for him. That's it. It's like because they're not gonna know, they're not gonna fucking know or anything like that. But because listen, your politicians should be scared of you. They should be. They should absolutely be scared of you. They should be terrified to lose your vote. And unfortunately, that's not the case a lot of times. Like, you're like, oh, you're not voting for me? Who the fuck do you think? No, fuck you. You earned my vote. Like, that's the way it should go. That's how this process works. But voting is also not going off track here. Because since we have such small amount of political power as individuals, we kind of subsume our entire political process in pulling that lever or punching that card once every 2 years. And it's a lot more than that. Like, it's a lot more. That's where I think the people like the third party folks or the uncommitted vote, that's where they're 100% right, because there's a lot more you can do than just that vote. And if all of your politics are wrapped up to what happens every other November, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not getting anywhere at all. And this is where I begrudgingly give respect to Republicans. John, what do I say all the time? They put in the fucking work. They did. Say what you want about them, but after the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement, Roe v. Wade, they have spent 60 years now, filling up school boards, city councilships, getting community organizations together to push their, fascist rhetoric, and it finally paid off. And fortunately, it's so poisonous to the general population that it's actually falling apart right in front of us. But we could learn a lot from that politics is more than just, who you vote for, but actually what you do for your community. God damn, it's already 8 p.m. We only do one more topic.
We've had like 3 segments in between segments here. I don't mind scrapping Alito.
I'll just say
Yeah. What was that?
I got us off track, didn't I?
No. This
happens. No, it's fine. No,
this happens every week.
Don't worry. Yeah, don't feel bad.
The first time won't be the last time.
Yeah, don't feel bad. All right, we'll go to the ICC then. All right. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw this, but like 3 days ago or something like that, the International Criminal Court has issued.
Was it 3 days ago?
It was like a
month ago at this point.
Yeah. No, it's pretty recent. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I mean, it should have been, but it's 3 days ago. But the International Criminal Court has announced that they are seeking arrest warrants for 5 people, 2 members of Israeli leadership and 3 members of the Gaza ministry leadership. And Benjamin Netanyahu, was named. And our favorite senator from South Carolina, actually, we had 2 horrible senators in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. So I got to clarify. Lindsey Graham, he heard about this, and I wanted to share this clip because have you guys seen this clip? What Lindsey Graham said about? Oh God, can't wait! You guys got to check this out. So Lindsey Graham had found out that the ICC is seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu, and this was his reaction.
Hopefully, together we'll find a way to register our displeasure with the ICC, because if they'll do this to Israel, we're next. This group tried to come after our soldiers. Yeah, you can clap all you want to. They tried to come after our soldiers in Afghanistan, but reason prevailed. So at the end of the day here, what I hope to happen is that we level sanctions against the ICC for this outrage to not only help our friends in Israel, but protect ourselves over time.
That is a stunning statement right there. I made a video about this. You can find it. Powers taken, not given on TikTok if you want to check it out. But a video about this, talking about how Lindsey Graham just displayed like a breathtaking level of a sociopathic arrogance right there, saying if they can charge Israel with war crimes, they can charge us too. So this obviously will not stand. And I talked about how, like, in the military, every year you have to. Oh, John, did we talk about this yesterday? I think I talked about this yesterday. But every year, at least once a year, maybe twice, you have to take law of war classes. And in your law of war class, they tell you what the rules of engagement are. They tell you exactly what constitutes a war crime. Because some of them might surprise you, oddly enough. A couple did me, but it's like, oh, you can't actually do that. And you know very well, what your limits are. And every now and again, you'd have some unit that would do stuff like in Afghanistan. I know that's the one Lindsey Graham's talking about, but there was a unit that when they killed enemy fighters, they would make necklaces out of their ears and stuff. And yeah, I know, real fucked up shit. Not once did I ever think, oh my God, they're charging those folks with war crimes. They might get me. No, I never thought that. I was like, no, get those folks. So if you ever catch yourself saying something like the International Criminal Court is coming after my buddy, now they might come after me, you may want to sit down and think about that statement. It's kind of like when the Israeli government put out that statement, The Hague will not stop us from what we're doing. It's like, oh, we call that not a good look. But what are your thoughts on that, Carrie, when you saw it?
Well, I mean, has he been drinking lately? I don't know. I just feel like he's been off the rails, just in general.
He does look like the shepherd. He does.
For the last several decades.
Hasn't? Yeah. Interesting that it's like what we hear with Trump. It's like, oh, if I'm with you, like if we are doing things that warrant us to be arrested by the ICC, like we should be held to the same standards that we expect other people to be held to. That was a really interesting thing that he said, and I'm interested to see like when was that in Afghanistan. And I believe, actually, I think I read something about it. I think at some point our favorite Trumpy Trump was involved on that. Yeah, he's off the rails. I think that it's obviously I think it is a good thing that the ICC is looking at it. I think that it is needed to have the international eyes on this because we know that Netanyahu is off the rails. Did you see his interview where he was talking to Stephanie?
Yeah, it was great.
Where he was saying that he likened it to going after arresting Osama bin Laden and George Bush. For what? That's what he said. So basically the same argument that Lindsay was making.
Which yes, George Bush should be arrested. He committed war crimes. Yeah. Like this is the thing. It's just like he lied to everyone, and we invaded a country that had nothing to do with anything. Like what are you talking? But that's like this is something we talked about a little bit yesterday, Carrie, and I'd be interested to get your take here. Because I said that I don't think the average normie American, like if you ask them, hey, if American, soldiers or American, politicians commit war crimes, should they be charged and arrested? And I feel like the average normie American would say yes, but it has been the policy, the official policy of the United States government forever. No, we don't get held to international community standards. We get to do whatever we want. We can put military bases all over the world, but we have a whole fucking hemisphere where no one else is allowed to have them. And like, that is how our country has always operated. We just really never said it out loud very often, like Lindsay's saying here. And so I wonder, do you agree with me that like, if like politicians really like tried to die on this hill, it wouldn't be a winning battle? Or do you think we would just kind of say whatever?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And we all know what happened in Vietnam. Like, we're very much against soldiers committing those crimes like that. So I think the average American would be like, yeah, dude, it's the same argument that Trump tries to make. Like, oh, if they can do this to me, then they're going to come after you. Well, yeah, if I commit these crimes, they probably should, right? I feel like we all are on the same page there.
I love that this has kind of been Donald Trump's rallying cry ever since they started coming after him for the random crimes. You see the memes where it's like, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just in the way. It's like, and if they could do this to a sitting, they say this, if they could do this to a former president, that's like, they can do it too. It's like, yeah, if I stole a shitload of classified documents, I would be in court today too. That's exactly what would happen. So that's not news, but somehow people see themselves in Trump. This is like, we talk about a lot with Republicans and how they're always going after the elite, which is partially the anti-Semitic code for Jewish people. Let's be real, that's part of it. And then the other part is that conservatives, when they say elites, they don't think of financial elites. Not really. Like they think of cultural elites. They think of actors, whether they make money or not. They think of content creators. They think of Elon Musk and Donald Trump are the working man. They're just regular Joes. A librarian. She's an elitist. Like she's like her $16 an hour job. So like their whole minds are just warped with this nonsense. And John actually pointed something out with this ICC thing that I didn't know. I actually took a dive into after you told me yesterday that you'll hear people say something like, "Oh, they're charging Netanyahu." The ICC is coming after Netanyahu, but they've never sought arrest warrants for the actions of Iran or Syria or North Korea. Or why is that? Well, it's because they're not part of the ICC treaty, and neither is the United States. Like the United States refused to do it, and I didn't know that until John told me. It's like, oh God, like, there are criminal courts, yeah, but that we're like, no, we're not going to do. It's kind of like whenever they have those UN votes on, is food a human right? And the United States votes no. You're like, God, it's just it's brutal to watch this shit happen. And John, I love so much that you keep bringing this up. It makes me laugh every time. The Monroe Doctrine. I
love the Monroe Doctrine.
I love that you brought it up again. That fucking James Monroe in 1824 is like, you know what? The Western Hemisphere belongs to the United States. Both continents, they're ours. Everyone else stay out. And we still practice it. We're like, yeah, no one gets to come here. We do it. By the way,
it still works. That's the crazy thing that no one has challenged it. Someone came close to challenging it one time. The world almost ended, and no one ever tried again.
Yeah, and it's like, by the way, the other hemisphere is looking pretty good too. Let's sprinkle all our military bases all around the place. And Carrie, you mentioned we were answering John's question when John asked. Do you think your average American, when approached with a question, if the United States commits war crimes, should there be some sort of punishment for it? And my first thought was Chelsea Manning. So for those of you who don't remember, Chelsea Manning was, I think she was Bradley Manning back then in the military. She worked in intelligence. And Bradley Manning released these videos and files of the United States military just gunning down civilians. It was a horrible video that they showed. It was a helicopter feed, and it showed some guys walking out of a building, and one of them had a long camera in his hand, and the pilot said, "I think that's a weapon," and he just shot everyone, just mowed them all down, which you could probably get away with because I thought it was a gun, and he did say that. However, an ambulance shows up and they shoot them too. They just mow them. Yeah, they shoot them down as well. The rescuers and the aid workers. So the military covered that up. The military said, yeah, that's never going to see the light of day. Private Manning found it and released it, and they threw his ass in fucking jail for doing that. They said, yeah, this is a threat to national security. And after Manning was in jail for a couple years, and Obama pardoned Manning on his way out of office. I hate that, by the way. I hate that president. I really so fucking coward. Yeah, I hate that shit. But then Manning got out, and then they released the actual security report of everything. And I can't remember which general it was. I want to say McChrystal, but it wasn't him. But he said, "Oh yeah, actually, that didn't hurt our national security at all. It didn't." And so he went to jail for no reason. So they're very selective on who they punish, because those pilots that shot those people and shot those aid workers, they never spent a day in jail. Didn't happen at all. So it's it's connecting. Trust me. What Kerry said is that we're aware of the shit that happens. Like, we know about the My Lai massacre. We know about Abu Ghraib. We know about Chelsea Manning. And I saw this news report where I can't remember the number, but it was talking about how people, younger than 50 or whatever, every decade you go back in like 40, 30, 20, the amount of people who say that they love the country plummets. It just goes down further and further. And it's like, yeah, that's not a surprise. Like, it's not a surprise at all. So I think your average American, depending on age, I think the driver was like, yeah, absolutely. You might get some people who are like brainwashed, like the old days, like, oh no, we're still the greatest country that ever existed, like that means anything. But seeing more and more stuff like this is just going to turn more people again. And it's not even anti-Americanism, it's just being fair. It's just being fucking fair. And it's like, we follow the same rules everybody else does.
Yeah. It's just being a human being. Like, it's just being a human being.
I think the average American isn't going to see the equivalence of Bush and Bin Laden. Today, I think a lot would. If they asked this question in 2012, maybe not. But it's the amount of people who were, you guys remember the war on terror, like the bloodthirst of this country was just wild. People couldn't wait. So if you would ask that question, like that are Bin Laden and Bush equally culpable in war crimes 10 years ago, maybe not. I think it'd be close to 50%. I think it'd be close. I think it'd be a significant size of the population. Like, knowing the result of the war on terror now, looking back on it, especially after Afghanistan, because Afghanistan was the good war. Afghanistan was the war that we were all proud of because, it was justified because Al-Qaeda was training people. I mean, the Taliban was allowing training to happen in Afghanistan, and we needed to, take it over to clear it out. And then to spend the better part of 2 decades in Afghanistan, only to find out the Taliban had more land in 2023 or 2022 than it had in 2003. So not only did we not accomplish anything, we lost ground there. And then, thousands of dead Americans, hundreds of thousands of dead people. So I don't know. So that's why I said it's probably going to be around. I think it'd be close. It would be close. Don't call me a liberal, by the way. That's insulting.
I don't. So if you're talking equivalence between Bin Laden and Bush, I don't think the average American would equivocate the two. Now, personally, I also don't equivocate the two. What Bush did was clearly
worse. Clearly worse.
Like, just by the numbers,
clearly
way
worse.
More people fucking died. Way more innocent people by scale of thousands died because of Bush's actions. So, like, I would say that was worse. But I think the average American would go, yeah, Bin Laden, he's a bad guy. Bush, yeah, he they might say, yeah, he committed a war crime by lying to the American people and putting us in Iraq. And I don't like that he did that. But I don't think they would equivocate him to Bin Laden. And I think it actually does speak directly to what we're seeing here with Israel. Like, what this is, exactly what you brought up, Care Bear, is that Netanyahu was like, yeah, you can't compare us and Hamas. And it's like, sure you can. You both committed war crimes. Like this isn't like a moral comparison. Who's what? It's, did you commit a war crime or did you not? It doesn't matter what standing you are as a person. You either did it or you didn't. That's how law works. And it plays this weird game. And I said this yesterday, where somehow Israel is able to conduct a war against Hamas, who isn't a state, but then also says out the other side of their mouth, oh, you can't equivocate us with Hamas. We're a democratically elected state and they're a terrorist organization. But it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that you are justifying killing people, killing civilians as if this is a war between two states, while also saying you're fighting a terrorist organization. The two things cannot exist simultaneously, and yet the entire defense of Israel hinges on them both being true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's the backflips that people will go through to say this stuff. And I like what John said. The question is, did you commit a war crime or not? Did you? Yeah. So like the charge against Hamas is that, hey, what happened on October 7th, indefensible war crime. It's by the books. Israel, you have starved millions of people. You've wiped entire cities off the map. You've killed thousands of children on purpose. You said it. Sorry, that's against the rules, and you can't just hide behind. Oh, well, this is what. No, like what war crimes happening during War II, people. Like that's when they tend to happen.
Yeah,
kind of when they tend to happen. Yeah, that's kind of weird shit. But yeah, that's why our whole point with this is that ultimately it's kind of like The Boys. I don't know if you guys ever watched The Boys and everything, but Homelander's biggest fear is public perception, like people turning against him. You could have all the power in the world, but if everyone hates you, what good does it do? And so things like The Hague and the International Criminal Court, they carry some weight. Like even if people who don't know anything about these, because we're all raised with the same thought, we're all taught Israelis good, Palestinians bad. That's just what we're taught as from children on. But then when you start hearing heavy hitters like this saying, and then countries like Spain and Norway and Ireland saying, we need to recognize a Palestinian state. And Israel says no. It's, okay, so you don't want a two-state solution? Like this looks really bad. Like it just looks really bad to the common person watching this, and it's taking too long. But it's all we can hope for to kind of turn this stuff around. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, good stuff. Well, folks, we appreciate you guys joining us today. It's been a good time as always. We'll catch you next time. We'll reconvene
like Wednesday at 6. If you're watching the audience right now, we're changing up the schedule a little bit. We're doing 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, right? Or no, 6:30 on Wednesdays,
both days,
and we're doing 6:30 birthdays. Yeah,
6:30 both days. 6:30 both days.
TJ's right. Listen to him. I mean, he had it wrong yesterday, but that's what we're saying. That's next week at least.
All right, later, folks.